What is a time when you were certain reality glitched? Story 1. So, back in the day when everyone was still using good old landlines, I tried to call one of my buddies and they picked up right after my call, but before it actually rang. So they grabbed the phone and hear me go, "Hello." Turns out they were about to hit me up too. After our chat, I decided to call another friend to share this wild coincidence because I was totally mind blown. Guess what? The same thing happened again. And yep, they were also about to call me. Story 2. I'm 21. I've spent my whole life in the same crib on the same block. I took the same bus, could stroll to school, then high school, and now uni is like second nature. There was never a trolleybus line by our place. Not once. I know this because I was super into trolleys when I was a kid. My mom swears there's always been one. It's there. Quiet. Just a reminder that reality kind of messed up. Just hanging out, driving me a little nuts. Story 3. Sometimes I get these wild dreams where I find myself in some random kitchen I've never laid eyes on, just chilling against the counter or whatever. Then, out of nowhere, a year later, I end up at a party at someone's place I've never been to, and bam, I'm in that exact same spot that I barely remember. But it hits me with this crazy deja vu. It kind of freaks me out, and I feel like I need to hit the reset button on my brain. This kind of stuff only goes down once a year. Edit. Also, I'm totally convinced life is like a simulation. That's it's kind of wild. The universe playing mind tricks on you like, hey, remember this random kitchen? Surprise. Sounds like you're accidentally time traveling, but only to people's houses for awkward social events. Deja vu is basically the universe's way of saying, yeah, you've definitely seen this dinner party before, but it's still not your vibe. I guess just brace yourself for a lifetime of weird kitchen memories and unexpected snacks. At least you can avoid the snack table if it gets too familiar. Story 4. So, there was this one time when I was around 12 and I got up to hit the bathroom. After I washed my hands, I stepped out, only to realize I was still kind of hanging out over the toilet. I might have still been half asleep or something, who knows, but that moment totally stuck with me. Story 5. It was a chill, sunny day, and I was pumping gas into my ride. I glanced over at the dude on the other side of the pump, and I couldn't wrap my head around what I saw. There was this guy who looked just like a classic Santa Claus: big belly, white beard, and a long mustache. But here's the twist: he wasn't rocking a Santa suit. Instead, he had on a short sleeved Hawaiian shirt covered in these tiny Santa Clauses doing a little jig. And get this, the tiny Santas weren't in the usual outfit either. They were sporting their own Hawaiian shirts with even tinier Santas boogieing on them. Story 6. So, I talked about this a while back, so I'm just going to copy and paste my own tale. I've got really terrible eyesight when I'm not rocking my glasses. Because of that, I've got these super chunky bifocal glasses I like to throw on after work to give my peepers a break from my contacts. Honestly, I'm kind of a hot mess, so misplacing my glasses isn't really a shocker for me. But usually, I can find them under a shirt or crammed in a hat I tossed on my bed in just a few minutes. One day after work, I wanted to switch to my glasses, so I dug through my nightstand, my bed, and the floor around my bed, like next to it, behind it, you name it. And I even shook out the clothes I tossed on my bed that morning while getting dressed. No luck. I couldn't find them at all, so I figured I'd chill for a bit. A couple of hours later, I was like, ugh, I really want to wear my glasses, so I searched again. This time, I grabbed my phone flashlight and basically stripped my bed of its sheets looking for them. I even checked the bathroom just in case. I got down on my hands and knees to check the floor and lifted everything on my nightstand to see if they'd fallen in something. I mean, these glasses are heavy and have thick black frames, so they should have been super easy to spot. I gave up again and kept wearing my contacts until it hit midnight, and I was ready to crash. I did one more crazy, thorough search of my bed and the area around it, and finally decided to just hit the hay, because once my contacts are out, I'm pretty much blind. So I took out my contacts, hobbled from the bathroom to my bedroom, and carefully climbed into bed, planning to stay sightless until morning, when I could pop my contacts back in. I fell asleep for the night. I don't usually toss and turn unless I'm flipping over, but if I do, I wake up and flip back. Once I'm flipped, I just stay put until the next flip. I woke up a bit before my alarm the next morning, and I found my glasses in my hand. Not just nearby or barely touching, I was holding them tight. I honestly have no clue what went down. My boyfriend, who didn't live with me. Story 7. Back in February 2010, my best friend and I stayed at the St. James Hotel in Cimarron, New Mexico. It's supposed to be haunted, and we were all excited about taking pictures late at night. The hotel has a bar restaurant that closes at 9 p.m. Around that same time, my friend and I walked past the front desk, and the owner told us we'd be the only ones staying in the hotel that night, so we basically had the run of the place. There was also a security guard there at night, but he didn't care if we walked around exploring. So, with the news that we'd be the only ones staying there, we quickly ran up to our room to collect cameras and stuff. We were so excited to start our night. After getting our cameras, we walked back down the stairs and into the lobby. The security guard was sound asleep on the sofa. He woke up when we walked in and said, "Getting a late start?" We just kind of chuckled to ourselves and agreed with him. We went outside for a quick smoke and checked our flip phones since coverage was spotty inside the hotel. When I opened my phone, the time said 1:30 a.m. My friend's phone said the same thing, 1:30 a.m. We were stunned. Somehow, we lost at least 4 hours in the time it took us to run up to our room and grab our cameras. And I remember being in the room. We were laughing and excited to start our night of ghost hunting. All we did was grab our cameras, throw on some light jackets, and leave our room. There's no way any of that took 4 hours. After double and triple checking the time and looking at the clocks in the lobby and asking the security guard what time it was, everything was in agreement. It was 1:30 in the morning. That whole incident left us uneasy for the rest of the night. We did explore the hotel, but felt jumpy and unsettled the whole time. I still have no idea what happened. Story 8, I was super wiped out after grinding through a week of 12-hour shifts. So I hit the hay at 10 p.m. and crashed right away. I woke up feeling like I'd snoozed way too long, but I was all rested up and pumped for the weekend. It was still only 10:30 p.m. on Friday night. Then I ended up being awake all night and all the next day without feeling tired at all. Story 9. When I was a kid, I was shooting hoops in my driveway. I took a shot and the ball bounced away, totally vanishing. We had a dumpster sitting there since we were doing some renovations. So I searched all over, under the dumpster, inside it, in the bushes, you name it. I was totally convinced that the basketball had just poofed out of existence. Then I checked underneath the dumpster one more time, and there it was. I swear I looked in that exact spot before. I'm pretty sure that ball just teleported to another dimension. But then, the universe decided to be cool and brought it back. Just casually losing a basketball to the void, huh? Classic. You really went on a whole treasure hunt for a rubber sphere. I can just see you crawling around like a raccoon trying to find a snack. Honestly, that moment when you finally found it under the dumpster must have been peak disappointment. Like, great, it's just chilling here. No wormholes or alternate dimensions, just a mundane dumpster. At least now you have an epic story about how you almost lost a basketball to the universe. Story 10. When I was young, me, my sister, and my dad were driving home in the pitch black. We were on a country road, so there was absolutely nobody nearby. My dad goes over this set of train tracks, and out of nowhere, there's the headlights of a train maybe 5 feet from the side of the car. Me and my sister start screaming. He jerks the wheel really hard out of reflex, but we get off the tracks and don't get hit. My dad pulled off on the side of the road to calm down, and when we looked back at the tracks, none of us could see the slightest sign that a train had ever been there. Our best guess for what happened is that a train was stopped close to the edge of the tracks, and the car's headlights reflected off the trains. But that doesn't explain the fact that none of us saw a train stopped on the side once we looked back. My mom doesn't believe this ever happened, even though us three still remember it years and years later. Story 11, I strolled through town to hit up a craft shop. The street's usually pretty chill, and it's a small one, so it doesn't take long to get across. Right before I stepped onto the road, I noticed the shop was open. But in the quick 30 seconds it took me to cross, boom, the shop was closed and the lights were out. I crossed back to call my mom and let her know it was shut down. While I was chatting on the phone, I turned around and, surprise, it was open again. So I crossed the road again, and guess what? It was totally closed again. Story 12. I don't know if this is what you're going for, but once when I was like 8, I had been playing this one learning computer games. This was the early 2000s, and there were these puzzle games like Pajama Sam, Freddy Fish, Spy Fox, etc. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but there was a part of the game where there was like a strand of numbers I needed to open a door, and I was stuck. I had a friend that knew how to get past that part, and I was going to ask him what to do next time I saw him. One night I saw him in a dream and asked him in the dream what the code was. I woke up and wrote it down. And the next time I played the game, I typed it in and it actually worked. I'm pretty sure that it was actually a code that changed from gameplay to gameplay too, which is crazy. I know this sounds weird, but it's a vivid memory, and I remember the exact journal that I woke up and wrote it in. Story 13. Back in high school, my buddy and I used to bounce home for lunch, whip up some grub, and then head to Votech for the rest of the day. One day, we went through our usual drill and somehow rolled into Votech like 30 minutes earlier than we usually did. We were convinced we must have stumbled into a time warp or something. Everything felt super off that day. Time warp vibes? That's a solid plot twist for your lunch routine. Honestly, though, I can relate. Sometimes I feel like I'm living in a time loop too, especially when I'm just staring at textbooks and wondering when it all becomes worth it. Maybe your lunch was just that good, like, hey, we discovered the secret to time travel grilled cheese. Next time, you should bring a flux capacitor to class, just in case. Story 14. I've got this vivid memory of chilling in the back seat of my dad's car during this little fender bender where we kind of veered off the road and stopped just a few feet from a drop into a river. The funny thing is, I wasn't even born when that happened, and no one ever brought it up until I casually mentioned it to my dad one day. Story 15. So, like just yesterday, I was chilling at the bus stop when a bus zoomed by, and I spotted this girl on it who looked just like my girlfriend from 2 years ago. I'm talking the exact same vibe. Green hair, the same glasses, body shape, face, earphones, outfit, you name it. It totally threw me off. I almost hit her up, but then I thought, are you a time traveler? Might come off as a little weird. Story 16. So, back when everyone was still using landlines for chatting, I decided to give one of my buddies a ring. The crazy thing was, they picked up right after my call went through, but before it even started ringing. So they answer and hear me go, hello? Funny enough, they were about to call me too. The other day, I cruised by this house, and the owner had three identical vintage Firebirds. Just chilling in the driveway. Same model, same paint job, you name it. And to top it off, he had the hoods popped on all of them. Story 17. This might not be what you're thinking, but it's totally strange. So, my hubby and I usually roll to church together, but one Sunday I was running a bit late, and he had to head out without me. I ended up driving solo later on. On my way there, I got stuck at a red light, and while I was just chilling in the car, I noticed a wasp buzzing around with me. It had this funky gray slash red slash brown color and was flying right next to my elbow. Naturally, I totally freaked out and started swatting at it to get it away from me. Then, super weirdly, it just vanished. I didn't hit it or anything, and it didn't jet off somewhere else. It was just gone. Seriously, I checked everywhere because I really didn't want it to land on me while I was driving. When I finally met up with my husband, I told him about the disappearing wasp, and he gave me this shocked look and said he had the same thing happen. He got stuck at that same red light, and a wasp buzzed by his elbow too, which freaked him out. He had to roll down the window to let it out. We still haven't figured out a reasonable explanation for why I saw that wasp. Story 18. So, the other day I cruised by this pad where the owner had three of the same asterisk, vintage Firebirds, all lined up in the driveway. Same model, same color, the whole deal. And get this, he had the hoods popped on all three. Totally made me do a double take. That's some serious commitment to the Firebird cause. Like, what's the plan here? Is he trying to summon the spirit of the 70s with a three-car lineup? I can just imagine him staring at those cars every day like they're his children. Yes, my pretties, you will never leave this driveway. Must have been a wild day for the neighbors, too. I mean, two cars is a collection, but three? That's a full-on cult at that point. Story 19, I've posted this before, but the strangest glitch in the Matrix I've experienced was writing my very much alive and generally healthy grandpa's obituary for a class at the exact moment that he died from a heart attack. I took a hard news/soft news journalism class in college, where one of the assignments was to write an obituary for one of my grandparents. The professor told us to write it on a deceased grandparent, but if all of your grandparents were still alive, we had to choose one. In my case, all of my grandparents were alive. I procrastinated until the night before it was due because it seemed like a dumb assignment. Scrambling for an easy grandparent to write about, I gave my mom a call and asked her for some basic biographical information about my maternal grandfather, who was kicking just fine and enjoying the simple retirement life. As we were talking about my grandpa's career, My mom couldn't recall the name of one of the companies he worked at. She lectured me about waiting until the last minute to write the assignment because it was late. 10:30 p.m., my grandpa's time. However, she said she would give him a call to see if he was still awake and be able to answer that question once my assignment was due the following morning. When my mom called my grandpa, my grandma answered the phone in a panic. My grandma frantically explained that the paramedics had just arrived and were performing CPR on my grandpa because he had stopped breathing and passed out. My mom was able to stay on the phone with my grandma until they took my grandpa to the hospital, where he was declared dead because of a likely heart attack. At the time, my mom and I had been talking on the phone about my grandpa's obituary. He was dying out of the blue at that. We ended up using the obituary I wrote for that writing assignment as his actual obituary. Still freaks me out when I think about the timing. Story 20. Not really a glitch, but I've been totally swarmed by coyotes this year. I think I've spotted more of them this year than I have in the last 10 years combined. I saw one chilling by the road close to my house. Then I spotted another one when I pulled over to grab my mail. And there was another in a field on my way to work. I even went to this event where an indigenous speaker shared a story about a coyote. But the weirdest part? I saw a coyote just lounging in the middle of my neighbor's driveway during the day. It feels like the universe is trying to send me a message. What does it mean? Story 21. Ever since I checked out The Matrix, every time I get that deja vu vibe, it feels like a total glitch in the system. And they've been popping up more and more recently. Story 22. Back in high school, I had this wild dream where I was hanging out with this girl I'd never even chatted with or had classes alongside. The next day, she rolled into school looking exactly like she did in my dream: outfit, backpack, pants, hair, the whole 9 yards. I was seriously mind blown. Okay, so you had a prophetic dream about a girl you didn't even know existed. Honestly, that's either some next level psychic ability or just a wild coincidence. And I'm here for it. Like, did you think you were living in a rom com for a second? Imagine running into her and saying, "Hey, I've seen you in my dreams." Bet that would go over well, right? But for real, it's kind of trippy when dreams sync up with reality like that. Just remember, if you start dreaming about flying pizzas or something, it's time to worry. Story 23. So, like back in middle school, I was on my way to class when I realized I was trailing behind this dude who was rocking the exact same color shirt and pants as me. And guess what? His hair was a total match too. Plus, he was sporting my watch. I glanced down at my wrist and saw my own watch, then looked up again, and poof, he just vanished. Story 24. I had this dream where I was snoozing. When I finally woke up, I figured out that I was just dreaming. Story 25. Memories that stick, the OG of American psychology. William James once said, "An impression can be so emotionally charged that it almost leaves a mark on your brain." That's the vibe behind what folks call flashbulb memories, named for how super clear they are. The first study on this topic dropped in 1899 by F.W. Colgrove, who noticed how vividly people could remember the moment they heard about President Lincoln getting shot. Recent research backs up the idea that memories from really intense moments are super detailed and clear. But guess what? They're not any more accurate than your average everyday memory. So Jennifer Tallarico and David Rubin over at Duke University got a bunch of US students together on September 12th, 2001. Yeah, the day right after the terror attacks, and asked them to jot down what they remembered from the day before and from September 10th. When they checked back months later, the students' memories of 9/11s showed just as much forgetting as their memories of the day before. What set the 9/11's memories apart was how strongly the students felt about them. They were more sure about what they remembered and felt like they were right back in the moment. Story 26. I used to make that drive from Salt Lake City to Provo, Utah all the time. One night I was cruising down the road, jamming to a CD and singing my heart out. Next thing I knew, I was 20 miles past Provo, just bawling my eyes out and totally clueless about what was going on. Story 27. Me and my buddy have this totally quirky connection. It's pretty normal for me to throw out something like, "Yo, remember that episode of American Dad with Ricky Spanish?" And he'll hit me up with a screenshot of his phone showing he's already halfway through it at the same moment. We call it our sync. That's low-key impressive, like some weird telepathy for TV shows. Honestly, if you two were any more synced up, you'd probably start finishing each other's sentences and planning a heist together. But for real, it's the kind of friendship vibe that makes me think, do you ever just sit in a weird silence, or is it always a full-on episode recap? Maybe it's time to diversify the conversation a bit, or just embrace the weirdness and start a podcast about it. That would get some views, I bet. Story 28. A while back, my buddy and I strolled over to the fair. There was this older dude chilling at the entrance, checking tickets, so we showed him our wristbands. We were super involved in 4-H, so we basically lived at the fair all week. He started chatting us up in German. We were in the USA, but no big deal. There were tons of old folks in our town who mostly spoke German anyway. I smiled and said, "Sorry, I don't speak German." He and my friend looked at me like I was a bit out of it, and there was this awkward silence. My friend knew a little German, so I asked her what he had said. They both exchanged glances, and then my friend started talking to me in German. I chuckled and said, "Yeah, but like in English." I tried to play it cool, but I could tell something was off. They both began chatting in German again, and then my friend tugged on my sleeve and led me away, still going on in German. She plopped me down at a picnic table and went to grab me a drink. Out of nowhere, I got this awful headache. Later on, she told me they had been speaking English the whole time, but I'd been mumbling nonsense. That was my first migraine. Story 29. I strolled into my room one day and fired up my laptop. I stepped out to grab a drink, and when I got back, the laptop was all shut down and turned off again. Story 30. Have you ever had those days when, for no reason at all, it feels like everyone you try to hit up just leaves you hanging? Like you're sitting there, bored, needing something, or just in the mood to chat. And then, of course, they all decide to reply right around 4 p.m. when you're busy or have other stuff going on. Classic, right? I actually once rebooted my phone because I thought my messages weren't going through. Story 31. Sure, please provide the original text you'd like me to rephrase, and I'll get started on it. Story 32. Back when I was a young teen, I was heading down the stairs and spotted my cat chilling at my parents' bedroom window, just peeping outside. She turned her head and glanced at me. I even said, "Hey, Tails." So I went down the stairs, and she was sauntering out of the kitchen into the living room. There's no way she could have moved that quick. It was like she just teleported or something. Story 33. So my fam was out, right? I called my mom's cell, and this random dude picked up, telling me I had the wrong number. I tried her again on the same number, and surprise, surprise, she answered. Oh, and there's that classic thing where we saw two cars that looked identical. Same license plate, except for one number being different, and they even had the same scratches on them. That's a plot twist I wasn't expecting on a Sunday afternoon. A strange dude picks up your mom's phone, and you're just like, cool, I guess. Classic mix up, though. I mean, maybe you just found a secret parallel universe where mom has a doppelganger and two cars with almost identical plates. That's some real life Twilight Zone stuff right there. Honestly, that could be the start of a very mediocre horror movie. The Curse of the Identical Cars, coming soon to a theater near you.